What's up YouTube, this is Slan here, and we're in Alpha 17 Experimental at long last, and this is just a quick look at the prefab editor in-game and creating distant POI mesh files for prefabs that you may have converted or building from scratch. I'll be looking a little bit at the world editor to demo the prefab that we'll make now, but I just wanted to try and be quick video, maybe it's 15-20 minutes, just showing you some of the quality of life improvements we have with such a robust editor to play with. So I like to show ground level, it just makes things easier. And we'll just get the selector tool up with Z, pull it out of the floor, Shift and G, and I'm just going to make a simple prefab utilising a few little features of the editor itself. So we want this all to be terrain for that, I believe that is. We'll make it a few layers deep, so I'll just use Control and C, slide that up, Control and V, or I can just slide it up again and press L. You know, there's a lot of ways to shoot a dog, or whatever the saying is. And for today's demo we will be using, where are they? Right, I can't remember how wide this is, it should be enough. We'll use this one. Right, and so for copy and paste, or for loading another prefab in, the point that the prefab gets spawned at will be the bottom leftmost corner of the selected area, or this block if it's just one block big. The prefab will always spawn to the north and east from this point. Just something to be aware of. And I need a selector in the world so that I can get the load into option. And now what I want to do is load this in, and that's a bit bigger than I was expecting, so I'm just going to hold in G. Right, I tell you what, we'll just put that there like that. Now that I'm happy with the placement, click Place Prefab, and I know this will work just nicely. Take that off. So, what did I call this? Mesh demo. Right, and so what I need to do is save this prefab, because one thing to be aware of, and especially if you're creating a fresh prefab, or you're going to do what I've just done here and knock a quick prefab up from bits of other prefabs, if I just press F3, and we'll check the coordinates of this block. We'll see that's minus 25, minus 15. See that there? Now, when I save, it's going to ask us to put in. Can't save. Right, and I don't know what I've done, but what we'll do instead is if I hold in Shift, you can see the block sinks in. I'm going to press Z. I'm going to press Z again up here, and that's going to make a box that's almost the size of the prefab. I think I've loaded it into an empty prefab or something. I don't know why the save option isn't there. And you see it's invisible from here, but I tend to find that once you've saved the prefab and reloaded it up, these will fix themselves. Or we'll see how this goes. I'll create a new prefab, and I just held in Control and pressed C there, by the way. Now the funny thing with this now is if I press, this is the selection that I've just left. If I press Control and V once, it's going to replace the selection area the size of the area that I've just copied, but in an empty world, this block starts below the ground. So it's just one thing to be aware of. So that's it actually just on the floor now. And if I press Ctrl V again, there we go. So now this is a new prefab. I should be able to save this now. But so we'll check coordinates again. So this is actually 0, 0. Now when I press save, it's going to cut any excess layers off to the edge of the prefab. Now if I had a line of blocks sticking off here, it would add 5 or 6 rows or however many I've extended it by of A. If you've got to think, it's constantly making a square. If I just put the bounds option back on, if it'll work actually with this. No, because this isn't actually a prefab yet. It's just, if I do the mesh file now, when I save the prefab, it's going to center the prefab. So when we load it back up, 0, 0 is probably going to be in the middle somewhere. And it means in the world, the mesh file is going to be offset, because the mesh file is going to be where this prefab is now and not where it's actually going to be once we've saved it. So I'm going to give it the X custom mesh demo. Now I've already got a world that I've generated, by which I mean I've went into the prefab, the random world previewer, generated a world from it. So I've actually in my worlds folder got a save. Well, it's not a save game, but you know, all that information's there. It just means when I go into the world editor and I load the map up, it loads quite quick, just in case you're wondering why. That's good. So I'm going to save that before I do the mesh, just to make sure the prefab's in the right spot. I'll just quickly load that one, then we'll load mesh demo back up, and we'll see the coordinates now. -26, -21. So this is now ready to go. So the actual making of the mesh file, now that we've got a prefab to test it with. Commands are quite simple. That's probably me dodgy copy and paste before when the stuff was invisible. The first command is prefab simplify. Press enter. Now, as you can see, it's simplified by pretty much removing all of the voxel blocks. They're gone. The asphalt road's gone. It's turned the little detailed fences into blocks. So the next command would be to combine this and then to export it, but what you can do is just take a moment to think of how this is going to look. So if you can imagine a black asphalt road stretching off into the distance, is all of a sudden at the very tip of your vision, where you switch from detailed terrain into the low poly version, you're constantly going to have this little white barrier. I don't like the way that the skinny little fence is going to in the distance look big and chunky and 2 blocks wide. It's not something we have to live with. So I'm going to leave one half alone just to show you the difference putting a little bit of effort in here I'll make. So I'll just select that area, press J to clear it off. I'll slide that along, press J to delete that side off. Now, what I actually want to do is replace this A with a dark looking block that we'll be able to see. So when the asphalt changes into this block, it's not going to look as drastic. So if we place a block down, decide what colour we want to paint it, and then I'm going to middle mouse click on that, but I'd already done that before, and that gives us basically a stack of these blocks. So what it means is if I press Z there and I press Z there and now I press L, now I don't know if I can do anything about these floating lights. Do you think maybe a half block would look good there? That's what I'm thinking. Was it quarter? Oh. Cloth. I think. Instead of floating. It's looks ridiculous either way, really, doesn't it? Yeah, fuck it, we'll get rid of that. We don't really need that. Just delete. So, I'm happy with the changes. There's maybe more I could do. See how it's kept the shape of that block there, but for some strange reason these ones have went square. Are they normal on that side? Ah, they are. I'll tell you what we will do then. We'll Z, Control C. We'll just slide that over there. Control V. You know, nice, neat and tidy. But what you've got to imagine, what you're about to see in the world that I'm going to load up is 40 or 50 sections of this all lined up together, seamlessly touching and connecting, and just, I should really have changed a massive section. I'm going to change all the highway to look like this anyway, but when you see the difference between the two of them, it's quite noticeable. But anyway, we've simplified the prefab. With the prefab simplify, we've made any changes we want to make. Now I want to prefab combine, and that'll happen. And we'll go prefab export. So the only other thing that's worth mentioning is, in fact, I want to quickly add another line to the prefab XML as well. But the mesh file is taken from the ground level and up. So it means this prefab, if we wanted these to be on the ground, we would have to add the ground, meaning if this was the ground in game, we'd have to add an offset in the prefab's XML for the distant POI. There's actually a configurable option in there. It depends how you're going to put it into the world. You'll go by the Y offset with the prefab itself if you want to drop it into the mixer, where it basically says, I want a prefab here, how deep do I need to drop it into the floor? Whereas what I'm about to do now is go into the prefabs XML that's in the worlds folder for this save game, and I'm going to add an extra line that basically says take this decoration and put it here, but as part of those coordinates you have to set the Y-axis as well. So I'm going to have to place this prefab into the world, taking into consideration the blocks that I want sunk into the floor. So it's something to be aware of. Otherwise, what sometimes you might find is if you've built a house with a basement, when you get off into the terrain, into the distance, the house will look higher than what it is, because when it's taken the mesh, it's cut the basement off. It's a funny. You'll see what I mean. If it ever happens to you, it'll make sense, and then you'll be like, ah, that's that thing that Slan said. Now I'm going to clear this off, because when we go into the world editor at 00, that horrible big black shape hovers there, and this is why we don't save anything, because ultimately we delete the prefab. So I'm going to exit that, cancel. Yes, I did. I exported. That's how I just had a momentary brain fart there. So we'll discard the changes and quit out here. Now, like I say, in the prefabs XML, I'm going to add the X custom mesh demo prefab to 2000 with the 43Y coordinate. Tend to find ground level sits between 40 and 50 in this world. And you want edit tools, world editor, and so all of these are just maps that I've generated in the random gem previewer. It creates entry in your worlds folder, and they are the worlds that you would load up when you do a single player game or whatever it is you're doing. So I want that one and start. And they load up pretty quick as well, so it's not too unreasonable to do a bit of work in the editor and then quickly pop over here to see what it looks like in the world and extend or expand upon it, then nip straight back into the editor, and not having to come out of the game completely is really, really good. But this should only take about 30-40 seconds to load up, and then we're good to go. Now we can do sleeper volumes with this editor, and what was the other thing? Prefab converting. But I know the prefab converter can be a bit finicky depending on how old the prefabs are you're trying to convert. I had a lot of bits of slant hunting that had been lingering around since Alpha 12 that have been converted to 13, 14, to 15, to 16, so some bits of it didn't play nice at all, and other bits were okay. But as a rule of thumb, I would generally think anything built in Alpha 16 and on Alpha 16 should go perfectly fine. But it's quite a self-explanatory process. If you just dig in the XML, all the instructions are there, the commands that you need. Right, so here we are. And here just happens to be a really long highway. I think I've actually got a wonky mesh file for this junction section, but you see what I mean, where the road turns from black to white. It's just ridiculous. You see the fence goes from skinny to chunky blocks, which looks a bit silly. You know, it's just better that there's nothing there at all. But if I teleport to 2000, there be our lovely demo prefab. So as it turns out, 43 was quite a good guess. But the real test is as we start coming away. I can't remember what my draw distance was set. Oh, it's just dropping out now. And there we go. Mesh files popped in. And it's only a small thing, but you know, one quite clearly looks a lot better than the other. And if you're going to have a road that's made out of, I don't know, 150 pieces of this prefab, you might as well have them all looking decent. And I don't think it's going to look too bad in the distance. You know, the skinny fence that you probably can't make out by the time it's just touching this and going low poly. Oh, there it is, we're just tipping in there now. So the fence at this sort of distance is barely noticeable, and it disappearing into nothing isn't too bad. But the road going from black to white is quite worrying. Prefab's obviously a bit bigger than it needs to be, but that is your mesh file. And like I say, if you find the mesh file is floating or is lower than the prefab itself, then you just need to adjust the, I can't remember what the option is. If I have a quick look, I've got one open. Distant POI Y offset, how original. But I hope that helps you in your prefab creation. Mesh files are quite a big, important part of making a prefab, I think. And hopefully I'll figure out how to do sleepers and not through this system soon, and we'll get a video or something put out about that. Otherwise, keep an eye on the channel for more slant hunting stuffs, which should be just around the corner, or some new ideas just around the corner at least anyway, of which you have probably seen a few already. But I'm going to call it an end at there. That's almost at the 20-minute mark. I'm sure you are bored and itching to make some mesh files now. So this is Slan signing out.